leaders. Welcome to Tales of Teams. I'm excited to bring you yet another leader with a glorious story. She is a seasoned business development leader with over 19 years in the financial services industry. As the Vice President at KFin Technologies, she spearheads business development for the high growth alternate investment funds segment, driving scale, innovation, and client value. Beyond her professional role, she is a passionate mentor and ecosystem contributor. She's a CXO incubator member, Catalyst mentor, LinkedIn Top Voice, and part of Deloitte's CXO Women's Leadership Program. A writer, speaker, and advocate for emerging leadership, she actively supports the growth of young professionals. Balancing her roles as a full-time executive, mother of three, and community leader, Madhulika embodies a collaborative, empathetic, and adaptive leadership style. She's deeply committed to making a positive impact on both society and business while staying grounded through travel, music, and a focus on wellness and spirituality. A true explorer at heart, she lives for the thrill of new places, fresh air, and a perfect song to match the moment. Please welcome Madhulika Sanghvi.
Hi, Usha. How are you doing?
Very well. Well, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on this podcast.
It's my pleasure and my honor, Usha. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. All right. So we'll start with, how you started, basically your childhood and everything. So if you could tell us about how was growing up like, and what were the key influencing factors as you started off?
Well, the growing up story is always interesting, isn't it? Because I think that's where the seed to anyone's journey is implanted. So
Yeah.
I did have a small town upbringing, very simple, sweet, outdoorsy upbringing is what I would say. And we had a huge garden and a big house. And that was a treat because you don't get to see that much these days, right? And especially in a city like Mumbai, especially in a city like Mumbai.
Yeah.
So yes, very, very happy upbringing overall. We did get a lot of freedom to play, and we were mostly outdoors, climbing walls, climbing trees.
Hmm.
And I think that's where a little bit of my risk-taking abilities got enhanced as well because I was a tree climber. And
Okay.
yes, of course, I've fallen like many times and hurt myself, but that didn't stop me. So me and my brother really enjoyed each other's company. We used to have friends over, and our parents were uh, brought in a lot of values in our
Hmm.
upbringing, but they allowed us to be who we are. Okay, so both my dad and my mom treated both me and my brother equally, and they came from a very open-minded, thought process, I would say. So we were allowed to explore our I would say curiosity and whatever, and direct ourselves to our own learning. But they were at the same time very firm in terms of the values that we carried with us, right? So they came from a background where for them honesty, integrity, respect, all of these things really mattered a lot. And both my parents were have been loved by society as well. Most of the friends just adored and loved them. And I think as we grew older, we realized the value of that, how they presented themselves in their circle of friends or in business and with their children as well. So, yes, Usha, to me, I think those are the values I carry with me today as, in my career and leadership journey as well. And hopefully a little bit in my parenting style with my own children. Yeah. So,
Right. Really precious, right? To have a healthy, stable childhood and in an environment like you're talking about, open playground and trees to
yes,
climb onto, and like free of any care at all. That's really precious. And like you said, I think it builds a very solid foundation to have what what kind of an individual you grow up to be.
Right. And I do believe the security that comes from your family does matter in shaping you, because then your roots somehow become strong and secure, and then you can move forward from there and
That's
kind of become resilient to whatever the world throws at you. But yes, I do believe the security really is a part of my entire being, and I really feel it has helped me a lot in my
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah, yeah. And then you threw it all away and moved out. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I finished my schooling in Rourkela. So this is a small town known as Rourkela. It's a steel city actually, and pretty well known in
Yes,
Orissa.
yes. I remember the
And
geography lessons. Raurkela was one of the cities always mentioned.
yes, and Rourkela, because by virtue of being a steel city, it had multicultural background, people from all over the country. And in fact, there was a part of the population which was also German, because of the they were brought in for insights and projects for the steel plant itself, right? So
Interesting.
we had an opportunity to interact with so many different people, across India, and that was really great. I would say a plus point. Um, so I wanted to pursue arts, economics, geography. You mentioned geography. That was one of my favorite subjects. And I don't think there were many options in Rourkela at that point in time. I'm talking about the mid 90s, right, when I finished my schooling. And I really wanted to explore a subject or a college outside of science, because that was what was expected, and most of the colleges there were prepared for science, right? Or maybe commerce to some extent. So there was no good arts college. And that's when I spoke to my parents and I said, look, the courses that I want are not available here. Is it all right if I look at some other colleges outside of this town? And they
Mhm.
were absolutely okay with it. And I left home post my 10th grade, which is pretty early, actually, and
Wow.
especially considering those days.
Yeah.
And they were more than supportive, and they were very happy that I was looking to pursue something that I liked, rather than forcing myself to go in a direction which typically the world would expect at that point in time, right? And I do remember once I got through Ferguson College in Pune, and I sat on the train and I was traveling with my mum. There was someone like a co-passenger who asked me, where are you going? And so why would you travel so far just to do arts? Right. So that was the mentality at that point in time. And but I stood I think I held on to my conviction, and so did my parents. So yeah, that was my journey from Rourkela to Pune. And I studied in Pune at Ferguson College for about 5 years. I did my 11, 12, and 3 years undergraduation in economics and statistics. And that's been one of the best part of my life. I mean, great memories built from there on. Yeah.
Those get really etched in your mind, and also you make some great friends, right? I think 3 years of my graduation in outside in a hostel, those are unforgettable. And the friendships, I think you can't beat those kind of friendships ever.
Yeah, I agree with you, Usha. I mean, some of my best friends are from college, and we a couple of years back we celebrated 27 years of being together. So
Ah,
we took a small girls trip
no.
out of Mumbai. So yes, I agree with you. I mean, those are the moments.
Right, right. Great. Okay, so and then naturally you entered the corporate world.
Yes.
How did that start? Was it easy? Did you have some initial challenges? What kind of atmosphere was that?
Wow. So post I finished my economics, I did a 1 year post graduation in business and entrepreneurship management from EDI Ahmedabad. That was in Gandhinagar. And it was a course in entrepreneurship, and I thought I'll go my dad's way because he was a businessman and I would
Hmm.
start my own business or support in the family business. But I had no intention in going back to a small town. I wanted to explore a big city because I had already tasted Pune. So
Great.
obviously I thought that the opportunities in larger cities were much more. And yeah, so I lasted 2 months in Rourkela, and then I kind of just booked my tickets to Mumbai without a job. And I landed up in Mumbai. I stayed with a friend, and they were gracious enough to host me. And I looked for a job, and thanks to some connection, so I got it through a family connect, right? So I walk in, and I was so nervous during my interview because honestly, at that stage, you don't really know much. And for me, I hadn't got a clue as to what specialty will I follow, right? What is it that I really want to do? I was open to whatever came my way, to be honest. So yeah, that was my first interview, and I got in, and I started working. I do believe, from the corporate perspective, I was quite naive at that point in time. Um, and in those days, you didn't have these resources like internet. You know,
Yeah.
you couldn't do so much research in terms of any business aside from speaking to a few people or reading some material, right, in a research paper. So,
Yeah.
so I had to learn the hard way. And it was a great organization, I would say. The name of this organization was Mata Securities. And that's where I found my mentor, because my boss became my mentor. So he one fine day, he was approached and he was told that, look, this girl Madhulika is joining, so you have to take her under your wing. And he was also equally surprised because it happened very quickly. And then there was no looking back. I worked with Mata for about 5.5, 6 years. And I do believe it was really tough, Usha, in the beginning, because I think the first job is truly very crucial. You are learning a lot. B,
Yeah.
you're very, very junior in the system. So it takes a long time to kind of bridge the expectations of the organization with your own skill sets, right? So it's like learning how to swim when you don't know how to swim. So for me, it was like a lot of trial and error in the first couple of years. But once I got a hang of the role, so I was a part of the sales team,
Mhm.
looking at institutional and corporate relationships. Now,
Okay.
when you're dealing with corporates and institutions, it's not child's play, because you're meeting someone who's a treasury head, who's a senior
Yeah.
manager within a treasury. And you got to know your stuff when you go and meet them, and you got to appear confident, even if you don't know much, right? So I used to observe a lot from my boss's conversations, my seniors' conversations during such meetings, and I picked up just listening to them. And then I would read, and pick up from what I could learn best from whatever resources were available. And he threw us out a little bit to swim, because I remember this time when he said, "Okay, let's set up this meeting," and I set up the meeting for him with a large treasury. And then last minute he calls saying, "I'm not well, I won't be able to join." And I was petrified because it was my first meeting with a with a CFO. But somehow I managed it, and I think that gave me confidence to start leading on my own as well. So
Yeah.
then, so by the end of it, I was leading a team of 12, growing really well within the organization. So my advice to the listeners here is, the first exposure, your first role could be a little tough, it could be a little challenging, but you got to adapt, you got to learn, you got to listen very carefully, you got to observe very carefully. And I think that is really going to help you uh, take strides and grow within any organization that you have joined.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, that incident that you just mentioned is just amazing, right? And a lot of learnings from what you just mentioned. Like, how do you just be like a sponge when you're starting
Yes.
off? Just observe and learn, and also the importance of finding a mentor. I mean, to you got assigned a mentor, but sometimes I think finding that right person who's able to support you, challenge you, and put you in uncomfortable situations is so important in the initial stages of starting a career.
Absolutely, Usha. And people find the right mentor during different times in their life. It might not necessarily be in the first role, right?
Yeah,
Having said that, I do think if a mentor doesn't come to you, then you can seek one too. It could be someone within your organization or even outside your organization. And I think networking with people and reaching out to people has become more, it's much more easier compared to what it was 2 decades back. Uh,
that's true.
yeah.
It
So,
wasn't even a concept as as popular a concept, I'd say, right? I think there were people who were doing it by default. It wasn't like a conscious effort to build
yes.
your network. But
Yeah,
nowadays, I think with this highly connected world, it's so important to have.
absolutely, absolutely.
Great. And then again, I think you threw the caution to the winds and took another turn. So tell us about that, our viewers about that.
Yeah, that was an exciting turn actually. So my husband got an opportunity to work in Dubai, in the UAE, and my daughter was just 4 months old at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was all set for this new adventure because I loved adventures. And in fact, I still do love adventures. Right? And something exciting, a new country, a new life. And I was really looking forward to it. So we embarked from Mumbai to Dubai sometime in 2006. And
Yeah.
with a very young child, she was just 4 months old. So I kind of quit my job at that point in time. I said, we are relocating and let's see what happens. Right. And when you're in a new country, obviously the support system still needs to be figured out
Right.
because we didn't have any family out there. We didn't even have close friends that we knew there, right? So it was all a new step for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very exciting, Usha, just being in a new country. And Dubai is just an amazing place, I would say. So for me, I was completely starry-eyed about the city, and there was so much to do, and especially with a young child, there was so much to do out there. So I truly enjoyed that first year there. And then I had hands in my pants. I mean, I really, really wanted to get back to work because by nature, I was used to working, right? I was used to financial independence. And though my husband was completely supportive and taking care of everything, on the financial side, I did miss that feeling of financial freedom and being valuable somewhere outside the house.
Right.
Okay, so I started looking out, and that's when I was advised, why don't you look at real estate? Because it
Mm-hmm.
gives you the flexibility to manage your child as well as work. So it wasn't like a full-time role. What I did was more of a consulting,
Yeah.
and again through my network. So network is so important, right? Every time I have moved a role or looked at a new role, I've reached out to someone in my network, and that has worked really beautifully for me at least. And I know it works very beautifully for many more who are listening in as well. So building a network and staying connected to people who can help you add value is also very important. So the network helped me because I got into one of the top real estate firms there, known as Better Homes,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
and it was just fantastic. I mean, the experience out there. I had the flexibility to consult from home, from office, wherever I needed to be. And the most amazing part, and I was there for a very short stint, maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, a year and a half, and it gave me the exposure and the opportunity to meet people around the world, and that was
Mhm.
just amazing because being in Bombay, I wouldn't have gotten that kind of an exposure,
Yeah.
right? So people from everywhere in the Middle East, people from Australia, the US, India, um, UK, Europe, okay, Africa. So it was
Mm-hmm.
just amazing. The cultural shifts which happened in my mindset, being able to bridge a conversation between two people who were from completely diverse cultures. So that
Yeah.
was my biggest learning in my leadership journey. And I really cherish those times, with this particular company. And of course, then by the time I was expecting my second one, and 2008 happened, right? We all know the global
So
financial crisis. It was a difficult time for most businesses.
yeah.
And since I was expecting my second one, I said, okay, let me take a break because this is going nowhere for me at that point in time. So I just took a decision. Me and husband just took a decision that I would move out and, be with the kids for some more time. And that's what happened. I truly enjoyed that time frame as well with my children. So 10 years uh, away from full-time corporate work, I don't regret it. It was, I think that that decade was the most beautiful in my entire life. And then along came the third one in 2013. And today, when I look back, I think that time spent with the children has been very special for me. I might have felt a little guilty had I continued working and not given them that much attention during the young years. So thankfully, I don't feel guilty right now, and I'm able to focus on my career and growth and all the passions and pursuits that I have. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that takes a heart, and of course a lot of planning, right? When you take a break like that,
Yes.
and then of course you came back to your professional career, where you also went through a very tough phase in between. Would you be willing to share that with our listeners?
Yes. I do believe everybody has some failure or the other in their journey. And this particular phase in our life actually twisted us completely. It was a very, very difficult phase for us. Um, so having a good life there in general, and kids were all in play school or school, right? My husband had set up a great business out there,
Mm-hmm.
but somewhere in 2015 there was a downturn in that particular industry.
Okay.
And when the downturn happened, and there were a lot of investments that he had also put into the business, and because of the downturn, we started facing headwinds.
Mm-hmm.
And when those headwinds happened, they happened really, really fast, really fast. And we had no choice but to take a difficult call to move back to India. And it
Oh,
happened so fast, Usha. Honestly, we didn't have time to think. The kids were happily settled in school. I had my set of friends, global friends actually, friends from all over the world, which was truly
right.
amazing. And we had such a good life out there, and it kind of just fell to pieces overnight. And we did take the tough decision to move back. We had to wind up very quickly and move back to Mumbai. Um, and that I think it gave me a huge shock. One of the things, I don't know if you've been to Dubai, one of the things there is it's also kind of a bubble. It's a beautiful place, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's also, you see all the good things happening out there.
Right.
Okay, so you have a lot of I would say you know the way the features, the facilities, the lifestyle, all of that is beautiful. Okay,
Right.
and when you come back to India, you get a reality check on many things because that's real life, that's real world for many. So that shift actually was very shocking. Our children had always been in Dubai, and for them it was equally shocking because they didn't really know what was happening. They were young. So the
You know.
boys adjusted really well because I think the youngest was about 3, and our middle son was roughly about 7. So for them, it was still okay. But my daughter, she had to leave a lot of good friends behind, and she was not happy. It was very difficult. I mean, I guess she was about 10 years old at that point in time. And when we came back and we relocated, it was very difficult because you have a nuclear family, just the 5 of us, and we moved back to a joint family and to a chaotic life. Now, for my husband and me, we had already experienced India for so many years. I mean, we've been brought up here. So we kind of managed it somehow, getting back into the chaos. For
Mm-hmm.
the children, it was tough, and they were bullied. I mean, my children were bullied big time when they came back.
Okay.
And that used to break my heart because, I mean, in a way, it was good because we kind of talked to them and we kind of trained them on how to handle these kind of instances or situations.
Mm.
But that period when they were being bullied, that was really tough. And as a parent, your heart breaks when your child is being bullied, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had to go through a lot of adjustments, I would say, and financially as well, right? Because we were not in the same position as before. And we had to rebuild our life all over from a scratch after moving back. So it took me particularly many years to get over this, but I do think it has shaped me into who I am today. And the same applies to my family as well, I think. Yeah. Powerful life lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak so much about resilience, right? When
Yeah.
things really turn, how do you adjust to that? But thanks for sharing, Madhulika. That's really touching. I'm glad things turned around and it's so much better and you've achieved so much after that. So let's talk about the more happy part of it. But before that, when you were coming back into the corporate, like 10 years is a long time to be
Yes.
away. And not even in India, right? Like you were in a different country. To your point, it was like a very different atmosphere. The people that you were meeting, the friends that you were making, your network, everything was so very different. We keep talking about how do we get women, anybody for that matter, but especially women after a break to get back to work. It's a daunting task, not only for the individual but also for organizations. A to
Yes.
really be aligned and open to the fact. Now, of course, it's become a norm, and there are different programs that are run. But for that individual, I think that's to just bridge that gap. It becomes really, really tough. How did
Yes.
you manage that? And so well?
It was not very easy. But as a person, I think by nature, I'm very, very optimistic. I've always been optimistic and I get excited. I get curious about new things, right? Like I told you, I love adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So while we were completely like in the lows when we moved back, I knew that I had to get back to work. I had to, build a financial future, not just for myself, but for my family as well. And again, Usha, I think the one thing that helped me was my network. I just had to make one or two phone calls. And the interviews came my way, and I think I got lucky there. And I can't reiterate the importance of a network. I mean, your network also has to be built into friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and your past work carries on. So for me, the kind of work I did in the past, I think a lot of people remembered that. So
Mm-hmm.
I joined, I think, my previous role, which was Mata Securities, as an assistant manager. And by the end of 6 years, I was AVP, leading a team, traveling across India, right? And I think that's what people remembered. The relationships which I had built with the industry. Many people in the industry still remembered me and reached out to me. So I think the impact that you leave as even if you're not in like a CXO role or a very, very high level role, at whichever role you are, when you're returning back from a parenting sabbatical, the the network really matters. So I think keeping yourself abreast of things, reading, understanding what's happening in that industry, reaching out and connecting to people really does matter. And when I did my interview, when I got the opportunity, to explore two organizations, and I went for an interview in each of these organizations, back into my old industry, which was asset management. I think it really clicked very well. I knew I was coming from a place where I'd missed out on 10 years of understanding that particular industry. Uh, to me, dug into my core strengths, which is people, relationship management, sales.
Okay.
And a skill like sales or relationship management doesn't really die. It's something which lives forever. And if it is your core, so whatever your core is, right? My advice would be someone who's looking to come back after a sabbatical. Look at your core strengths. You will never forget your core strengths. And picking up on any particular industry or landscape doesn't take time. So yeah, so go prepared, but also be vulnerable when you kind of have these interactions, saying yes, this gap was there, but I'm willing to learn. I'm curious, and take success examples of success, how you adapted well, how you picked up very quickly, how you might be a quick learner, really impacted a particular industry in your previous role or a particular organization. Use those examples to propel your discussion forward with any organization. And once you're in, you got to work hard. You got to be observant, like I said. You got to pick up, you got to make friends, you got to learn from everyone, and you got to take risks and put in your best work. So that's what I did. And it was so difficult for me because my children were still very small, and but we still managed it somehow. Yeah, so that's how I got back into corporate world. HDFC AMC is where I restarted as a manager. And they were gracious enough to and open-minded enough to, you know, offer me the role.
Great lessons there, Madhulika. You build your network, keep in touch with the industry, like learn about the industry.
Yeah.
Also keep learning. I think when you start off, also you're almost starting off from scratch. So be willing to take risk and learn. And then what I think there was also a shift that as we were having this conversation, you're talking about a shift into being a leader. Really, how was that?
I think deep down inside, Usha, I was looking for answers, right? And I had to restart again. I mean, in my first role, I was an AVP, a team leader, and I loved nurturing a team. I mean, it was inherent in me. I just loved the thought of, working alongside a team and, doing great business for the company together as a team, right? So I wanted to explore that. And when I was at HDFC, it was a individual contributor role, okay, because I had to kind of gulp down my, uh, you know, previous titles
Right.
and start from a scratch as a manager. And somewhere it was pinching me. Because
Mm.
what I've realized is, again, by inherent nature, I do believe that I pick up things quite fast. I move fast. Okay.
Yeah.
Once I'm into something, I move fast. So that happened there again. And it was kind of pinching me somewhere that, I need to grow. I need to grow. Something needs to be done. And at that point, I also wanted to make more money. So I'm being very transparent about it, right? Because when you restart your career, I had to be flexible enough not to take a big package. Obviously, it was a starting package again for me. So I wanted to grow, and somehow I think the universe heard me out. I don't know how these uncanny things happen, because when you have something in your heart, your intent is to grow, your intent is to put yourself out there. Sometimes, luckily, the opportunities do come to you, and it has always happened. I think in my entire leadership journey, when I put an intent out there, help came from somewhere, right? And so someone called me, a friend of mine actually called me saying, "Why don't you join my team?" I wanted to lead a small team. And at this point, she was actually an India head for this particular institutional business. And again, she was leading institutional business for a asset manager, which was DSP Mutual Fund. And she was actually my junior in Mata. So I had mentored her in Mata Securities. But because I was coming back after a 10-year gap, okay, and she said, "Look, if you don't mind, I'm happy to offer this because I'm really looking for someone who'll spearhead this piece for me and who is scalable." And it was an exciting opportunity. I thought to myself, I don't think many people would go and work for someone they mentored.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had to keep a really open mind, and I loved her because we got along really well. And I thought to myself, you know what, these kind of opportunities don't come again, Usha. And I really wanted to take the plunge, and I was being offered an AVP role, so straight from manager to AVP, and a good package as well. Um, So I did the set of interviews and I said, yes, let's make this move. But it was an emotional move, Usha. I questioned myself 1,000 times. Will I be able to take the risks? Will I be able to extend myself? My kids are still small. And at some point, I called my friend and I told her, look, I don't think I can come. Okay. And this was emotions because for me, I was kind of in a comfort zone at my previous organization. And I was worried that will I be able to live up to the expectation of a more assertive and aggressive role being a mom of three? And that's when I consulted a couple of people. One was my husband, and he said, don't think twice, just go for it. He had my back. And then I consulted another really good friend of mine, again, a woman who has her own business. Actually, she's a founder. She's actually a principal. She leads a couple of schools. And she said, I don't think you should hold yourself back just because you're a mother. You should go for it. And I think that turned things around, and I joined this company. So it was an emotional shift, very difficult decision for me to make. But it turned out really great because I joined DSP And the learning curve at DSP had been phenomenal for me. So I was with them for 4 years.
Mhm.
I was part of their Mumbai team. I was leading a small team. So I got my chance to nurture a team again. And it was a creative place to work. They were very technology savvy, digital, like high focus on digital, a lot of new learnings. They wanted to do things really differently. And that's what aligned with me. And I think I learned to bring back a little bit of my spark with that organization. Yeah. So that's how it worked to the next level, Usha. And the way I started discovering myself is because of this, various steps of risk taking.
Mhm.
I wanted to have my voice back again.
Yeah.
I was known as Madhulika. Not many people knew Madhulika for who she could possibly be. Okay, so I was this mid-cap stock waiting to become a large cap. And yeah,
Very
I
funny.
always think like that. And and to me, I wanted my voice to be heard. I was otherwise known as Manya, Garv, and Aryan's mother, right? Or this particular lady who works at this particular organization. But I wanted to, and let me go back a little bit, Usha. So during the 10 years when I kind of was at home, or with full-time parenting, I was at some stage also in a kind of a small phase of depression, because I had lost my identity, I felt, at some point in time. And I was trying to figure out who was I? Am I this person who drives her kids to school every day and picks them up and takes and goes grocery shopping? So while all these things were important for me to do, and it's an important role, I had lost myself somewhere. And there was a time when I was questioning myself, what is my worth? What is my worth? Why am I here? Right? So
Yeah.
I was missing that. So fast forward a few years at DSP, I started thinking, how do I find my voice?
Mm.
And at that point, I was great with one-on-one discussions, one-on-one pitches. But when you put me in a boardroom of 20 people, I kind of used to lose my voice because I just didn't have the confidence, and especially on harder topics.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that's where the transition happened, Usha. And again, the universe brought me help. I was a little bit frustrated, and not from the role itself and not from the company itself, but from what I wanted to, or where I wanted to see myself.
Mhm.
Okay. So I did take a huge risk at this point in time. So I was looking out, thinking, what should I do? And I go on LinkedIn and I see this, coach known as Radhika Balakrishnan, who's having a 7-day leadership challenge, a CXO challenge.
Okay.
I said, okay, this is a complimentary 7-day challenge. Let me jump into it. So I did jump into it. And that 7-day challenge, I think, made me discover my true self, or at least a part of it. Maybe 5-10% of what I really aspired to do, and
Okay.
what, where my gold was. Who am I? Okay, a bit of that. It was just scratching the surface. And then this challenge was followed by a course of 3 months, and it was followed by a induction to this CXO cohort. I jumped in. I was part of cohort 1. Okay, now she's at, I think, cohort 14 or 15, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I was, so this was early January 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it
Interesting.
just transformed the way I started looking at things, and it changed my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
You
yes,
have to
I
take
think
it.
that was the start of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we were in this program, Madhulika, and we discovered how similar we both were. And
Yes,
as you're telling your stories, I like it's getting more and more reiterated that how similar we are in terms of like trying out new things and just um, jumping and we'll figure it out. But I think taking that first step is so very important.
yes,
Amazing.
yes, absolutely.
To back to what you said when you took that role. Reporting to someone whom you had mentored earlier, that's a tough one. I think it's not a lot of people would do that. Right? In whatever your situation is, it's like you have to really bury your ego and go do the job, right? It's not an easy thing to do. So I really hats off to you for jumping in for what it is, like for the learning, and of course for your better future. Sometimes it's like how Gita says, right? Like karma is important, and forget about the results. I think you have to do your job.
Yeah, you have to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And I think a learning opportunity is a learning opportunity. And when, especially for women who are coming back from a sabbatical, or even a parent, right? There are many men who take breaks to bring up their kids for parenting, or, for other reasons, for caregiving as well. And my message to everyone is just keep an open mind and find the opportunity. Opportunities can always be grown, but grabbing that one opportunity which comes your way, which can be life changing, you got to
Yeah,
keep an open mind for it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've talked about leadership and how this TXO cohort has changed you or helped you rather enhance your leadership style and enhance you as a leader. Are you able to narrate a story? And my podcast is called Tales of Teams, so we like to tell tales here.
Great.
So if you could share one story that has really shaped you as a leader, that'd be great.
So I think the one thing that comes to my mind, and which I believe I was lacking earlier, is
Mm-hmm.
risk taking, Usha. So to move to the next level and to,
Into that, you like died from when you moved out of your house after 10th. That's some risk taking. But anyway.
I did, but as a parent, I had kind of toned down my risk taking, I would say,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking of your role as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter. And,
Yeah.
and especially as a parent, I think you kind of tone down and you always put your children ahead of your own desires, your own wishes as a mother. I think it's a very common feeling, which I think a
Yeah.
lot of our listeners who are mums or caregivers will align with. And so for me, I started taking slightly, I would say I started taking leaps in my risk taking. So at this juncture, when I did CXO incubator, my coach completely whitewashed my mindset. It was just this beautiful relationship, and it's a cohort based learning. So I think everyone who came to the cohort was facing similar challenges. They were at mid level in their career and
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to take the next leap. And how do you get there, right? And for you to get there, you got to question your why, what, and how. But more importantly, Usha, I think is the why you need to question.
Yeah.
And for the why to be answered, you need to understand who you are. So all
Mm.
these questions had to be answered, and I think I got a good peek into myself. And I realized that so many of us, we hold ourselves back because of our own mindset. We start believing that being conservative, being sensible, and being practical at all points in time is really great, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that great to be sensible all the time, and it's not. I don't believe it's great to be practical at all points in time. Sometimes you need to dream big and you need to take the leap and take the risk, right? So at that point in time, I had an opportunity within the same industry at a slightly higher level, a zonal level. At
Okay.
this point, I was in, kind of working on Mumbai, and then there was an opportunity within the industry which would take me as a zonal head. Okay, but somehow I kind of thought to myself, what if I try something else that'll, take me a leaps forward, right? And at this point, I reached out to a career coach and I did 2 sessions with this person. He was a professor. He is a management professor. And I
Mm-hmm.
found him on LinkedIn somehow. I connected with him and, that, so again, this is like you put your intent out there and help comes.
Yeah.
And he told me that why don't you look at fintech as an avenue? Right?
Uh,
It's coming up really well. You want to try something new and you want to be in an industry that is currently in a tailwind. And see, being in the right industry at the right time, Usha, is also, very, very important.
true.
So your growth in your career can really be propelled just because you're in the right place at the right time. So I started thinking and I reached out to an ex-colleague who had just taken up a CXO role in this particular new firm known as KFin Technologies. And I reached out to him and I asked him, can you give me some advice on the fintech industry? And that opened up a conversation for us. So He called me a couple of days later. Look, I'm looking for an India head for this business, for this particular business, which is alternative investment funds. And I thought to myself, let me explore it. And we met, and I think it kind of clicked. I was apprehensive moving into a new industry, into a new space. I was apprehensive moving into a company which was a 40-year-old company. I did not know how the culture would be, because if you look at financial services, or if you look at the asset management industry, it has good diversity. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of women working, and overall a good culture. So I was coming from a great culture already, and I wasn't sure how this 40-year-old organization would be in terms of its culture. So I had a lot of apprehensions. But I think with the right conversations, with the right approach, asking the right questions, I got convinced that I need to join this organization. It was a big leap for me. I moved into this role 3 years back as a DVP and head of India Alternatives, like head of the alternatives business within this company.
Yeah.
And I think there has been no looking back. The learning curve has been immense for me. And I've had the opportunity to try new things within this organization. I do lead a small team again, a team that I love completely and I love working with. And yeah, so that opened up. So this kind of risk taking, I think, opened up new avenues for me. Moving away from an industry that was known to me, comfortable to me, but I knew that, I couldn't keep jumping organizations within the same industry just to grow vertically. There had to be something more for me in it. And that propelled me to take a leap. And of course, speaking to my coach also really helped. She nudged me in the right direction.
Fantastic. And I think you have invested in yourself so much, right? Very thoughtfully finding the right mentors, coaches, reaching out to your friends and network to really shape your career very thoughtfully, I think. And a lot of us, I feel like we want things to happen, but we don't really think through and make the necessary effort. And of course, you have to build your credibility and those relationships, which will help you in the key moments there. But I think
Yeah.
a really great job. I think it's like a playbook on how you can, build a career very thoughtfully, irrespective of all the ups and downs that you have. So thank you for sharing that. What would be your advice for somebody who's kind of starting all over again? From whatever, need not be always motherhood. It could be
Yes.
any sort of career break. Is there like a one quick tip that you like?
I think I have oversold the network part, but
Yeah.
I'll still reiterate that it's truly important. And just being fluid, Usha, keeping an open mind, being curious, showing your enthusiasm. I think these things really matter. And if you're expecting to come back or hold on to your past in the sense like what you've done before and you want to kind of only focus on that, sometimes then you are restricting your own opportunities. So keeping an open mind, looking at new avenues of opportunity, and building yourself in a diverse way, I think this really helps. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things which I would advise people is social media. I think it has a huge impact. Your presence on social media can really help you scale your recognition and your visibility to a large extent.
Yeah.
I do believe LinkedIn is the new CV. I mean, yes, we do have to have a formal CV when we're applying to jobs. But the first thing I do is I look at a person's profile on LinkedIn to see if, what kind of work have they done,
Yeah.
and it's not just about your fitment into a particular role, it is your fitment into a particular culture as well. So the more open-minded you are, the more flexible you are at this juncture when you're coming back to work, coming back to an industry, the better you'll fly and the faster you'll fly. Okay.
Yeah.
So coming in with preconceived notions, holding on to the past is not going to work. Got to see what the future holds, and you got to bring in those skills and learn and show that you're learning. You got to be visible in your learning as well, so that the
Right.
person who's hiring you, your manager, your organization, knows that you're willing to put in what it takes to get back in the game.
Yeah.
If it requires you to pick up a few certifications, get better prepared, and be visible, and build a good profile on social media as well, I do believe is very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me,
Realize the importance of just showing enthusiasm, right?
yeah,
Sometimes I get into these interviews and people are just like slouching and holding their head. There's no smile. There is like, I think, forget about any competence or skills that you're bringing to the table. Just by looking at the person, I wouldn't hire you. Just because, I mean, I don't want these like unenthusiastic, non-energetic folks in the team. I
yeah,
think it's just like showing up, show some enthusiasm, and eagerness to learn. So I think that's usually not given as much importance. I think you have a big CV with all these certifications, everything, but ultimately, just people need to buy you, right,
yes,
first before they could,
absolutely, absolutely. They need to buy you, your conviction, and your confidence.
right? Yeah, right. So you actually went from seeking financial stability and supporting your family to then seeking your purpose as an individual, as a leader. What's how does that how did that shift happen? And after the shift, sort of what kind of experiences have you
This is my favorite question, Usha. I think, when you experience transformation, it is the most fulfilling, gratifying, amazing feeling that anyone can have, right? Because many of us question ourselves, what is our purpose? Why are we here on earth? Am I just going to be one of those, mediocre people, or is there some value that I can really, really add through myself? Can I
had?
be a channel for value addition? How can I really do something to extend myself to not just my work, my family, but beyond that? Okay. And again, a few steps back, I think my coach helped me find that. While I was looking for answers, I didn't really know how to find my purpose. I don't think most people really know. And some people are lucky. It comes to them through the universe, through their intention. And some of us had to be trained towards it. So for me, I had to get that mindset shift, which my coach helped me because she helped me dig deep into myself, answer some questions, some tough questions, ask myself some tough questions and answer them. And then once you start finding yourself, you need to work for it. So a
Yeah.
purpose cannot be achieved without action. You just keep on thinking and dreaming in your head, and you think one fine day when I retire, I'm going to do this. I want to help people out when I retire. I don't think you got to start acting on it today. And that's when transformation happens. So the minute I started finding myself, I started realizing that I want to help people through my own story.
Mhm.
Uh, my own story or in your own story, right? Everybody faces difficulties in life or some sort of situation in your life or phase which pushes you to become the best version of yourself. And I'm sure, Usha, you have some such stories as well. And I'd love to hear from you later on, maybe
Because
post this session one on one. But yeah, so finding that, digging into your pain and making a shift in yourself and actioning that purpose so that somebody else can benefit from that. And for me, it was about voicing out my story to the world. And if it helped somebody, that was phenomenal. That's what I was looking for. And that's when LinkedIn happened to me. And that happened again because of Radhika. She pushed me hard to start writing. And I had so many fears. What would people think? And especially women, fear of judgment. What will someone else think? What will my organization think? Okay. She said, just get out there. Don't try to be perfect. Start writing. And I started writing bit by bit. It was so scary when I put up my first post on LinkedIn. It was in yeah,
yeah.
it was scary. It was early 2022, I think Jan or Feb 2022, and I started writing. And then one post after the other, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, I started getting addicted to it. And this was when I started, I think, transforming in a way, Usha, because I started finding my voice.
Mm.
Everyone is looking to find a way to channel their voice. You have something to share. I have something to share. I think each of our listeners today has something to share through their own journey. And that's what I think started the transformation. And I kept writing diligently on leadership, on mindset, on so many different things, on positivity. I would take instances from my own journey, my own life, what I observed in an organization, and I started writing about that as well. So yes, this got me a lot of recognition, I would say, which was good. But recognition is surface level. It's only when you start impacting people for change that's when the true fulfillment comes. And people started reaching out to me, DMing me. I'm really moved by what you've written, and I think I'm going to inculcate this in my life. And so all those shifts started happening, and that's when I started feeling truly happy about my work. And yes, so I think that really helped. And over my entire life, I don't think I've won many awards or been voted as best thing, best this or best that, right? And I think CXO Incubator gave me that opportunity. And because of my presence on LinkedIn and my ability to express myself diligently, in a couple of years, I think so there were some awards, and I got voted in 4 categories, and it was just surreal because I wasn't expecting it, right? So transformational leader, I think, expression, and there were 2 other categories, and I was just blown away. And you get to realize that there's so much you're capable of, and you might envision yourself. You kind of don't envision yourself as other people do. And people outside might be envisioning you as someone who's really doing some good work. And we might be questioning ourselves internally, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? I think all of us go through that. So I think these have been the fears. I have my own fears, I think, just like everybody else. And I express some of them, right? Fear of judgment, fear of expression. What will others think? And all of these questions always. And even today, when I do speak, like before I came on, of course, my confidence has been significantly enhanced because of all the action I do. But you always doubt yourself, how will this podcast go? Right? So there's this niggling thing. So all of this has transformed because of action, Usha.
Yeah.
And then it was followed by LinkedIn Top Voice. And I think I was so happy when that badge came. And I didn't even know the badge came. A friend of mine called me and said, do you know that this badge is showing on your profile? And I had no clue. Yeah, I had no idea. So these are the small steps, I think, when you build yourself, when you start emptying and filling your cup, emptying your filling your cup, learning new things, trying new things. That's when you can give to the world. And that journey for me continues. I don't think it's a destination. Transformation is a journey. Purpose is a journey. I stepped into the world of mentoring because after I achieved title of VP, and I was very happy with the way things were going at my organization. I was fulfilled. I thought to myself, what next? Something is missing. And that's when I said, I want to impact someone's life. And that's when, again, the universe brought me help because I put them on a WhatsApp group. I want to mentor, I want to help out young adults. I want to help someone out. And with my time, not just with money. And
Yeah.
someone just messaged me back saying, why don't you speak to this organization, this non-profit known as Catalyst? And I just directly called up the CEO, Purvi, and I got to understand what Catalyst does. They are impacting significant number of young girls who come from difficult backgrounds. These are smart girls. They are academically very, very smart. They've done really well in their exams and their scores. And most of them are engineering students. Um, and there are mentors who volunteer, mindset mentoring. It could be academic mentoring. It could be anything, basically to shape these girls up. And Catalyst works with them closely to train them, to bring them up the curve, to help them with EQ, with communications, with hard skills, internships, and all of that, right? So I started my first mentoring session about 3 years back. The girl that I mentored has been hired by Morgan Stanley. And the day I first met her, she was in tears because she was low on confidence. She just didn't know how to interact with people, and she said, I'm not making friends. I'm not able to reach out or put my potential to full utilization. From that day to, so we both worked hard together with each other. I've learned so much from her. So this journey of mentorship now has moved on to my second mentee. And I think that again, my transformation continues because you are impacting someone's life and that person is impacting you as well.
Yeah.
So it's a mutual journey, and I'm going to continue this. And I urge all our listeners, please put in your time, your gold, whatever you know to help someone out, to help build their lives as well.
Have to, all of us who are a little bit privileged maybe have to give, right?
We
I
have
think
to.
this podcast also, that's how it started. Like, I think especially new leaders, as you step into the leadership journey, there's so much of unknown, right? It's a whole new ball game altogether. And people are confused. Like if you're in a really good organization, there's a lot of investment in training and coaching you to be a leader. But there's so many out there who don't get that help. So
Yes.
this conversation with all wonderful leaders like you is that step that I hopefully we will benefit through these conversations.
Hats off to you, Shah.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Madhulika, for your time. This has been one of the most enriching conversations, I can say very truly. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we'll be in touch through multiple other mediums, but
Yes.
it was a pleasure having you. Thank you.
And it was my pleasure, Usha. Thank you for empowering this conversation, your podcast, by inviting me. And I'm really grateful today for this opportunity. And I do hope our listeners benefited from this conversation. And each of you who have tuned in today, all the best. Stay on it, be resilient, dream big, and act big as well.
100%. Well, I hope you liked that insightful conversation. She's great, isn't she? There is so much to learn from her journey. It talks about vision with action. You not only have to dream, but you also should follow it up with action. I'll come back with more such leaders and more such stories. Until then, keep leading the way and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See ya.